everybody, this is Kyle, and you are back watching Knockouts in 3 Counts. And before we get started, make sure you hit that like button and hit the Knockouts in 3 Counts button there in the corner and hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit them notifications. We are back with a great episode for you and hot off of a fight nonetheless. We've got the return of our homie Myles, the Fury Jury, fresh off his win at Bellator 243. How you doing, brother, man?
What's up, my man? I am doing good, feeling great. Coming off a win, man, back in San Diego. Went to the beach today, eating all the food I want to eat, and spending time with my family, man. So God is good and doing great right now.
Well, let everybody know where they can find you, obviously on social medias, but you've got quite the YouTube channel, so let them know where they can find you and all your great content at.
Yeah, for sure. YouTube, just my name, Myles Jury, M-Y-L-E-S, J-U-R-Y. And then all my social media is just my nickname, Fury Jury. So hit me up.
All right, Cory, so I'm tagging you in here, man. Obviously, for those of you who have been watching the channel or seen any of our past interviews, which you can check out in that right corner with Myles, you know, you can check out the past ones. And obviously, you're used to seeing Devin and the other guys around with me. Obviously, Corona's got us in quite the little spot, and Cory has been with us for a little bit, so I figured I'd tag Cory in. How you doing, brother, man? Let them know where they can find you.
As always, only thing I use, Twitter, Fight Pan from the 313. Let's get to it.
All right, man. So like you said, you've been busy. So first of all, tell me your thoughts on the fight. And now you're on a 2-fight win streak after taking that tough loss to Benson Henderson. But I mean, at this point, especially with Chandler talking free agency, you're in a pretty good spot in the Bellator 155 division.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I came in, I trained hard for the fight, well prepared. I knew going in, I knew Georgie's tough, a veteran, but I know my skill set. I know I'm sharp, and I can beat anybody in the world. And, I think we've seen the best Georgie show up that has really ever fought in my fight, and I stepped up to it. You know, it was a good fight. He kind of messed up my leg in the beginning a little bit with some calf kicks. He got off to a good start, but I adjusted well. Kept pushing the pace, scoring more points, doing more damage. And, the decision, I think it was a unanimous decision personally. But you know how the judging is in this game, man. It's horrible. So we got the split decision, got the win. And, man, I'm in a position now where I have 1 fight left on my contract with Bellator. And I would like to stay with them. You know, I really want to keep working my way up that ladder, get that belt, get that strap. But we'll see. My management's talking to Bellator right now. We're trying to figure out something to move forward because, I love where I'm at. I love the organization, but I need to make some money as well. So we'll see.
All right, Cory. Well, he pretty much teed it up. It's like he's done these things.
I was gonna say.
So he teed you up, Cory. There you go. I'll leave it to you for the next one.
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't get much cleaner than that, huh? I was gonna ask you your facial reaction when you heard 30-27 the first time was one thing, but when then right immediately after that you hear 30-27 your way, what was going through your head at that moment? Because your facial reactions were they were pretty good.
Yeah, so you guys didn't see it. I don't think you were able to see it on TV, but when the announcer walked in, because he had the scorecards before anybody else. And I felt like I won, right? Like I felt it was a good fight, back and forth. So it wasn't like a clear, like I dropped him 10 times each round and like a clear cut, victory. But I looked at the announcer when he came in with the scorecards. I kind of gave him that look like, homie, tell me, like before you announce it, are we good? And he kind of looked at me and he could tell, like, because he tried looking away, but then he looked back at me. And he kind of just like smiled and gave me like a nod. So I was like, all right, I feel like I got this. And then I'm standing there and he reads the first one, Georgie 30-27. And I was just like, oh my God. I was like, how do you score at 30-27? I at least know I won a round. So right then and there, I was like, this, praying to God in my head. Like, please, I felt like I did enough for the victory. I want that extra win bonus. I got a lot riding on the outcome of the fight. I was just praying, like, please don't take this away from me. And I was a little disgusted with that first card, man. And I was. You could see it on my face. I was just like,
Oh,
really? Like
yeah, it was.
what?
We were talking about that as we saw it because we watched the fight. He actually came over here to watch it. Moms was watching the fight too, dude. And we're sitting there
I
like, dude, like, fuck, man, like, how though? Because my thought was, and I said this to you, Corey, like, I mean, my thoughts with it was, okay, I could see somebody saying 29-28, if anything. But 30-27, though? Like, especially after the third round. Because, like, okay, he had a good guillotine attempt, but dude, you elbowed him so many times and were on him for, if I remember right, they said the full time after the fight, but I want to say they said it was somewhere in the range of like 2.5 minutes of the third round. You were on top of him and landing ground and pound. So if you control somebody, if what we're judging a fight is controlling a round, if someone's on top of them landing elbows for 2.5 minutes of a 5-minute round, I don't really understand how that, like, that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. You know, I think that's just a testament to our sport, man. MMA, it's young and there's so many different elements to the game. And you see it all the time. You see it all the time. At least in my opinion, you see fighters that clearly win 2 rounds to 1, and then the judges give it to the other person. And you know, at this level, when you're fighting the best guys in the world, you can't always go out there and just knock somebody out or submit them. You know, like I trust me, I wish I could just go submit them in the first round, and that way there's no judges. But you know, when you have good competition and it's back and forth and those close fights, it's just I don't know what that judge was smoking. I don't know what I don't know how he gave it to the other guy. I mean, it 30-27, you know, so I don't know. And a lot of these guys don't have to have any accountability. You know what I mean? They can call out these crazy scores, and then they don't have to do anything with it. It affects us. They basically bail out the back door, don't have to you know, take any responsibility for anything, and it's the fighter that's left with half his pay, a loss on his record, possibly not being able to get a better negotiation on his contract. So it's kind of like a slippery slope.
So that leads into a question I had for you. So what, if any, you know, I've said this for a long time, and those of you who haven't checked it out, make sure you check out in the past videos or anywhere you find your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, all that. But, you know, we've talked a lot about on the show, and you've heard Joe Rogan talk about it a lot, the need for reform in MMA judging. So you being somebody that's fought on a lot of the top cards, if you were to make any like suggestions for revisions, what would they be? Because obviously they're not going to have all fighters be the ones that they would bring in. But if you had somebody that maybe didn't have fight experience, what would you suggest is like a criteria for somebody then? Because I completely agree with what you're saying.
And can I add something to that? Can I add something to that too, real quick before you answer? Have you seen what they've done with Invicta when they're fighting in Kansas with the open scoring?
That's where they show the scorecards? You can see them in between rounds.
Yeah,
like
they're showing the corner. They're not showing. Yeah, they're not showing the fighters. They're showing the cornermen in between rounds, and it's kind of up to the corner whether or not they want to disclose it with the fighter. But at least that way they know what's, you know, going in between rounds.
Yeah, I like that idea. You know, and being a judge it's a tough gig, man. It really is, especially when you have these close fights. So judging is not an easy. Like for me, I remember when I was an amateur coming up, Collision, you were with me as well. We go to fights, and sometimes I would be a referee, and sometimes I would be a judge, and they're both tough gigs because you always have somebody, you know, somebody's always a loser when it comes down to it, and there's always high emotions with it. So judging's not an easy gig at all. Some things that I think would like help is I think we need a more clear-cut universal rule set. What scores and what doesn't. You know, it's very vague, some of the rules right now. You know, aggression. I mean, what does that mean? You know, does that mean holding somebody against a cage for 5 rounds? Does that mean swinging and missing? Or does that mean you're actually aggression scoring with your shots? Like, so I think we need a clearer set of rules for the judges to go by. And I also think there needs to be some type of education or course for judges. If you have a guy that's a boxing, analyst and knows boxing, and you can't just throw him in an MMA fight and think that just because he has a boxing background, he knows all the dimensions of MMA. You have jiu-jitsu, you have wrestling, you have cage work. There's just a lot more that goes into an MMA fight. So I think kind of getting these judges educated a little bit more, maybe have a standard course that at the high levels, Bellator, UFC, they have to pass a course and have it something like educational, learning about jiu-jitsu, and starting there. I think that would help.
I couldn't agree more, because we've talked about this for years, man. I mean, because here's the thing. We all know boxing is scored on a 10-point must system. But I feel like that's ineffective in MMA for this reason. Obviously, not only is there the obvious that you're fighting on the ground, but there's just a lot more things you can hit somebody with. You can hit them with your elbow, you can hit them with your knee, you've got takedowns, you've got, a lot of things that don't, come into boxing. So I don't know if it would be reforming maybe the way it's scored, but I definitely agree that there needs to be some form of reform as far as the courses that they need to take. Because I know for referees, I mean, a guy that you and I both know very well from here is now reffing fights for UFC, Bellator, Vance Swirdan, and I know they had to go through like the big ref course and all that stuff. I just wonder, I'd love to know what like the different commissions, like what you have to, do with that. But that brings up a question that goes with that. What do you know if the judge that scored the fight 30-27 for Karahanian was the same one that AJ Azagram was complaining about? Because I don't know if you saw in the post fights, but there was a lot of talk about that.
No, I didn't see that, and I don't know which judge scored that bad one for AJ, or if it was a bad call. I was kind of like warming up and kind of getting loose for that.
Well, basically, in a nutshell, what happened is he claims that the judge that was in question, they didn't say the guy's name or anything, but they were like, the judge that they were talking about apparently had both trained with both him and his opponent and sponsored both of him and his opponent at one point. And his whole beef was, well, how can he be an impartial judge when he still helps a bunch of us and this, that, and the other? Some of it sounded like spilt milk, but then with what happened with yours too, it was like, man, that's interesting that happens twice in a night.
Yeah. I don't think that's cool, man. I don't think there should be any relationships with the judges and any of the fighters. That's another slippery slope right there. Because when a fight's close, it's like, who are you going to give it to? You're going to give it to the guy that you have a personal relationship with, or the other guy? When it's a super close fight, you're probably just going to be like, well, man, it's a tough one to call, but I'm going to give it to my boy.
Right.
So I don't think that's really fair.
Right, and that's why I wanted to hear what your thoughts are on it, because that was really interesting when I heard him come out and say that. But that brings up another good question that I have that I heard mentioned in your post-fight interview, but I kind of wanted to expand on that. So you mentioned in the post-fight interview, your thoughts on the judge and what you just said on your thoughts on the scoring. But you had one of the guys was asking you how your faith, kind of helped you through that. So can you explain to those who maybe don't know, like, because I know you personally, I've seen you get ready for fights, and I've seen you kind of how you're like chill going through it. How does your faith in things like that help you like through training and keep you calm in a situation like that? Because like you said, you put all the work into it, so it's a matter of God meeting you in it. But I just heard you talk about that a little bit, but knowing you like I do, I thought that would be a cool thing to jump
into. Yeah, for sure. And to me, God, everybody has their own personal relationship when it comes to religion and God. To me, I always know that somebody is there, because when I've been down and out in life and logically everything kind of just it wasn't adding up and seemed like there's no way out. I always kind of leaned into a trust and a faith that there's a higher power. And somehow, some way, when I do that, I make it through a lot of tough situations. And when it comes down to camps, fights, you're in your best zone, and at least for myself, I can't speak for every fighter, but when it comes down to getting close to the fight week, warming up, all the training's been done, all the logic and the thoughts, all that stuff doesn't matter at that point. What matters is trust in yourself, trust in your coach, trust in the higher power that God has got your back. God built you to be great. God didn't make you in his light to be small and to be inferior. No, God made you to be great. God made you to be a light to shine out on the rest of the world. And trust, faith, all that comes into play when I'm going out there to fight. I mean, without that, it's like the glue. It's the backbone behind my performances.
I like that, and I'm glad that you kind of got to expand on that, because when I heard that question, I was like, yeah, that's something I'd love to get into, because knowing you like I do, I mean, you're always like, I tell people all the time, like, Cory and I have talked about it, because obviously Devin's got to come out with me to some of the post-fight parties and has met you and things, but I told him, I was like, dude, if you hang out with him outside of a fight, it ain't what you see in the cage. Like, he's not like the big tough guy, badass guy that's walking around trying to whoop everybody's ass. You've never been that way. I've known you for what? You were 19 when I met you. I was 16. So, I mean, dude, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I'm human, man. Like I have good days and I have bad days. No, I'm not perfect, but I do my best each and every day to be what I would say is like a sheep in life, but in my cage, in my profession, I'm a wolf, man. I'm a killer. But I know there's a time and a place to be a killer. There's a time and a place to be a wolf. In 95% of life, is to be a sheep, man. Is to be out here, loving my fellow man, spending time with family, lifting people up, trying to be as positive as possible. But when I get into that cage, that's a different story. That's my element. I'm confident. I'm mean. I'm sharp. I'm in my zone. And whatever I say or do, I cannot be held accountable for, dude, because that's Fury.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Fury. Clearly, this wasn't the training that you're used to. I heard you say a lot leading into this fight that it was you and Heathen training one-on-one. When I say Heathen, I'm talking Jeremy Little, Heathen Stevens. So tell me a little bit about your training for this fight. What were the biggest differences you saw? And with there being no fans and things being set up the way it did, was there anything that was really like that jumped out or that was real different as far as fight night itself?
Training leading into this fight, the training was tough. Again, I mean, the sprints had to be done, the sparring rounds had to be done, the wrestling, the soreness, the dieting, all that stuff was still there, and I had to go through it. With this camp, though, the last couple of weeks, I really had to stay away from a lot of people, because if I test positive for COVID, I cannot fight, and that's the main focus the last couple of weeks before the fight was just staying healthy and COVID free. So I spent a lot of time with Jeremy Stevens, contacted him, was just like, yo, man, hey, I need your help. I need you just to stay out of the team practices, just work out with me. We're going to go out to the fight. And he was cool about it. That's my best friend, one of my training partners, it's my brother. So we spent a lot of time together the last couple of weeks, and man, it was a lot of paranoia. I even told my son and my wife, I was like, look, you guys, Matt can't go to jiu-jitsu practice. I don't want him around a bunch of people. You guys, please, I can't have you guys going out to, SeaWorld or going around a bunch of people right now, because if you get sick and come back and get me sick. So, I had to be a little paranoid and stay away from many people as I could the last 2 weeks. And then fight week was just, man, getting tested a lot, even a little bit more. The paranoia weared off a little bit once I got my first COVID test was clear, before I took off. But fight week was just more or less a lot more sitting in a hotel room because you're on quarantine a lot. So it was a lot more, mental, mind, games a little bit. I had to, stay focused a little more. But besides that, the fight with nobody being there was awesome. I love it, man. I think it's just, less distractions. I show up there to focus on having a great performance and winning a fight. And the stage was awesome, very classy the way Bellator did everything. Going out there, I felt in my element, man. I really did. I felt like I was right at home.
So That's a good question in and of itself. So, now you're 3 fights into your deal with Bellator. Obviously there's all this talk with Mike Chandler wanting to leave and all that stuff. Now after 3 fights, what are your thoughts on Bellator as a promotion? First of all, how do you feel about making the switch from the UFC? And secondly, now with him leaving or testing free agency, whatever that's going to be, what do what are your thoughts on the 155-pound division at this point? Because like you said, Pitbull isn't fighting a whole ton.
Yeah, man. As far as Bellator, I've had a great experience with them so far. They've treated me well. Very relaxed organization. From Rich to Mike, all the people behind the scenes, great people. So I've had a great experience thus far with Bellator. As far as the 155-pound division, I feel like it needs people like me, man. Everybody that's signed with Bellator right now is either had their shot at that title, or they're just kind of not really as active, or they're just, I don't know. There's just really nobody that's a clear cut in my way, and I feel like it's a wild west out here. I feel like this division's wide open, and I want to capitalize on that, man. I want to capitalize, and that's what I'm looking to do.
So
one thing I wanted to ask about that, and you kind of brought up the point. I was making it while we were watching the fights this last weekend with Kyle. Does Bellator actually have like a ranking system, or how does that go with like their top 5, for instance? Like you said, you want to work your way towards that title fight, of course. And is there a clear cut path, or is it kind of like you said, like the Wild West?
What's funny is because I get tagged sometimes on Instagram, and it's like a Bellator rankings tags me, and like when I fought Gertz, they tagged me, and like Gertz was number 6 or 7. They had me ranked at 10. I was pissed. I was like, you're gonna rank Gertz over me? And I remember when I did the interview for Bellator for the fight, I was like, yeah, I don't know who does them shitty ass rankings, man, but I don't know how you got Gertz over me, man. And he was like, oh no, man, that's kids online do those rankings. That's not Bellator. And so no, I don't think Bellator has a ranking platform at all. So maybe that's something that they'll end up doing, because there's really nobody. I'd say Chandler on paper right now would be the number 1 contender. He just knocked out Benson, super impressive. But he possibly could be going on to UFC or some other organization. And behind him, there's really no number 1 contender. So I mean, nobody's going to say it for me, so I might as well. I'm going to step up and say, yeah, that's me. I'm next in line. Let's go.
So before I ask the last question to kind of close this out, it's funny you say that, because Cory can vouch for this, because he watched the fight, or him and I talked like right after the fight. But right after you got your win over Gertz, the first thing I said was, thank God he's finally opening his fucking mouth. Because, man, I've said it like for so long when you were in the UFC. I feel like a lot of the reason why you didn't get, maybe you did get big fights, but I feel like sometimes they passed you over because maybe you weren't the most shit talker like Conor McGregor or something like that. Like, you kind of let your fighting, do the talking for you. Where it was nice to kind of finally see you come out and be like, nah, bro, like I need to be where I deserve to be in this pecking order, which is something I feel like you had gotten passed over to a degree in the UFC. I don't know if you feel the same way, but that's how it looked to me.
Yeah, like as you get older in your career and you get more wiser, there's a difference between, I could be myself, and I'm a very humble person, but again, that guy in the cage, that's Fury, man. That I'm a wolf in that cage, and getting a little bit more confidence and wiser as out of my career, that it's all right, man. It's all right to state your claim, speak your honest opinion on stuff. And, at the end of the day, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and closed mouths do not get fed, especially at this level. So I do my best to try and be authentic with it. I don't, I'm not out on some people's levels like other guys talking, but I'm definitely not afraid to speak my opinion on topics. And especially when it comes down to what's next for me, who do I want, I'll let them know.
It's good to hear it. Well, before I let you get out of here, man, it would be remiss if I didn't bring up one of your newest ventures, which we were talking about before we went on the air, which you just hit 30,000 subscribers on. So for those of you who aren't checking them out, check out that link in the right-hand corner or the one in the description to Myles' channel. You've been doing your thing on YouTube, Playboy, talking about everything from financial freedom to MMA and all that. So tell us a little bit about that and let people know where they can find you and expect from the channel.
Yeah, man, for sure. First things first, I'm a huge YouTube fan. I'm always on YouTube like every day. I probably watch it more than Hulu, Netflix, anything. So I'm a big fan of YouTube. I'm a YouTube nerd. I feel like I've gotten so much out of it, and I chose just to open up my channel. On fighting and investing. Those are two things that I'm very passionate about and have some experience on. And it's just fun get my opinion on those. Hopefully, kick out some information that can help educate people, maybe inspire them to change their lives and be better, man. So that's the main goal of the channel.
Cory, well, was there anything else that you wanted to get in, or did I hit the nail on the head for you?
I guess one thing I did have a question about, and I guess you might have an answer for me possibly. I know it's not your division, but is Bellator planning on restarting the 145 tournament they had going on? And that could be possibly the delay with the 155 title as well.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's a big part of the delay with Pitbull is he's in that 145-pound title, and I haven't heard any exact dates, but from what I've seen behind the scenes and what I know of Bellator, is I really think that the tournament's going to start sooner than later. I think they're going to start announcing, getting them fights going again. So stay tuned. I think so. I think it'll get started within the next couple of months.
Yeah, I thought they were doing a really good job with that, and like you said, I mean, it's unfortunate for the 155 because it's leading to a delay, but it was some real entertaining matchups coming up. So. Yeah,
I love the way Bellator does that. Puts everybody in a tournament. The old school like Pride days kind of reminds me of. And man, I'm looking forward to some of them fights too. That AJ McKee, Darion Caldwell fight's gonna be sick. Pitbull's coming back, so hopefully get him moving again. So yeah, it's gonna be nice.
And one more word, I guess, on that. Any potential rumblings of a 155 tournament?
I was thinking that the other day. It's got to be coming soon. I haven't heard anything. But I would have to say that's got to be coming down the pipeline soon. Maybe I'll get in that.
Thank you for checking out our video. Great chat with Myles Jury. It's great to have him back on the show, and we're happy to see that he got the rightful decision in his fight this past weekend. Well, make sure you check out all the great content that we're going to be bringing you here from Knockouts and 3 Counts, and make sure you check our picks as Myles joined us for those for this weekend's UFC 252 card. Hear who it is who he thought was going to win that fight and hear who we got as well. Make sure you stay tuned and check out all the great content that we've got coming to you soon. In the meantime, in between time, peace.